I was a kid, I thought more about like, what if my parents died? Like I at the age like when I'm too young to do anything like or take care of myself, I was always fixated on like, well, man, if they died, like what would happen to me? What would happen to my sisters? What would we do? And all that, but not so much my own personal death. When that hit me was when I became a father. Then I started to think a lot about my death in the sense of like I was just like, obviously I felt like, man, I got to be around here for at least 18 years. Got to figure this out. And so like when I would do things like fly, maybe a little bit more nervous than I ever was, and just any sort of like thing that would fall into like a riskier category, it was way more prevalent in my thoughts than they had ever been before.
You guys are both weird. You guys it's normally the other way around. You start thinking about death the older you get. When I was a kid, I didn't think about death at all.
The older I get, the less I think about death. For real. Like when I was a jit, man, that shit used to like really bother me. And I remember like it used to really bother me while we used to think about death all the time. And what's going to happen? And what about this? What about that? And I think maybe that kind of spurred my little religion thing there for a while because, growing up in our community, it's like, yeah, well, if you do this, do that, you're going to hell, and then you're going to burn forever. And it's like, well, I'd better do things the right way. And then you get older and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to smoke weed and smash a bunch of chicks, but I'm going to just ask for forgiveness after. And then you learn whatever later on. But anyway, it's like, So
you were like, when you're a jit, you're worried about your death?
Yeah. Worrying about being afraid to die. Wondering what's going to happen after I die, being completely nervous. Not, anytime we're driving on the highway, that's why it took me so long to get on my first plane. All that stuff, man. And I remember when I asked my mom one time, it's like, I'm afraid to die. What's going to happen? Are we going to die? And this is that. I remember she just said, well, you're going to live forever. Don't worry about that. I don't know if I would explain it that way to my kids, but in a sense there is some truth to that, because if you do make a big enough impact with others and even within your family, you could essentially live forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Einstein is still alive. You know what I mean? People still talk about him and reference him and play his videos or whatever the case may be. Not videos, but you know what I mean. His theories. Talk about his theories.
That almost slipped past me. It's fun. That's interesting because when I was a kid, I thought more about like, what if my parents died? Like I at the age like when I'm too young to do anything like or take care of myself, I was always fixated on like, well, man, if they died, like what would happen to me? What would happen to my sisters? What would we do? And all that, but not so much my own personal death. When that hit me was when I became a father. Then I started to think a lot about my death in the sense of like I was just like, obviously I felt like, man, I got to be around here for at least 18 years. Got to figure this out. And so like when I would do things like fly, maybe a little bit more nervous than I ever was, and just any sort of like thing that would fall into like a riskier category, it was way more prevalent in my thoughts than they had ever been before.
You guys are both weird. You guys it's normally the other way around. You start thinking about death the older you get. When I was a kid, I didn't think about death at all.
Yeah.
When I started thinking about death, I think I was like 13 or 14. I had a friend that died. He was 14. Of kind of like a freak accident, like kind of like natural causes in a way. But even then, I wasn't like I'm going to die. I don't want to fly. Now I'm older. I think about like dying and what happens next and that kind of stuff. But when I was a kid, I thought that I'd live forever. We jumping off the roof and shit. We had no regard for death at all.
But see, that's another thing too, because as you age, whatever from adolescence to whatever to younger 20s, 30s, at each grouping, you either hear of or know someone that's dying that's your age. You know what I mean? And it does. You may not, whatever. You may not labor on it for a long time, but it has to cross your mind. Like, damn, this mother. You know what I'm saying? Like, we went to school together, or I saw this motherfucker on the bus. You know what I mean? A week ago or so. I don't know. I do think about that as well from time to time, but yeah. I just don't think about it. I don't have any kids, so that is a factor. That's definitely a factor. what you guys said there. So yeah.
But my kids are older now, and so it's back to the point where I don't worry about it. It's not.
Yeah.
I've had a good run, and if it happens, it happens.
And when I was, especially when I was younger, even if somebody died, I never looked at it like that could be me. It's just like, oh, damn, he died. It's like it's actually the opposite, where I feel like that's not gonna happen to me, to the point where I didn't even think about it at the time. Just like, damn, he died. That's unfortunate. Like, you know what I mean?
That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
It is, man. It is, though, man. It is.
I don't know.
Just thought that was kind of interesting there.
Yeah.
All right. Once again, you guys are on the bench podcast with Bubba and Pink, home of sports, music, and mayhem. We're available on all, and I do mean all podcast streaming platforms, including here on YouTube. Please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. On to I guess you could say one of the biggest news of the day, man, is Houston, Texas. Houston Texans making a big trade for Stephon Diggs from the Buffalo Bills. We'll talk about the Bills side on the back end of this. Just speaking of the Houston Texans, they're doing what Pete and I talk about all the time. You have a quarterback on a rookie deal. Go ahead, load him up, and make a run for it. Plenty of quarterbacks, even in recent memory, have been in the same predicament and have made big runs or made the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl. Even a quarterback that's in the news now, always for the wrong reasons, Russell Wilson. If you remember when he was on his rookie deal, that's when the Seahawks were the strongest and they were making this, the Super Bowl runs and things like that. And then when they had to pay him, they had to start letting all these guys go. So you got to do it now.
Yeah.
And man, they have a loaded team over there now, because you remember they made the trade for or signed the Bengals Joe Mixon. Okay, so they got him over there in the backfield. They already had two young studs at receivers anyhow, with Tank and the other guy. Their deep threat, and then you also have two tight ends who are really good, and and the defense is really good as well. What you think? Where does this put the Texans? Did this surprise you at all?
I was surprised. I didn't have any. I didn't hear anything that the Bills were looking to move Diggs or anything specific recently. So it did catch me off guard when I saw it. But I'll applaud the Texans. This is a great move. Following the game plan, load up your roster while you can financially do so, and accelerate your timetable and make a run.
But there was noise that Diggs wanted to be moved.
Big facts, yeah.
So it wasn't surprising that he got moved. Surprising that. Well, not even surprising that the Texans took a swing at it, is because I thought that he wanted to be moved too. I think Josh Allen gets like this praise that I don't understand. I don't understand the Josh Allen praise.
Yeah, and this leaves the Bills in a unfavorable. They've lost four captains, 4 of 6 captains from last season, and maybe 1 or 2 more even.
And Gabe Davis.